Good evening and welcome to Close Up. A few weeks back, the University of the South Pacific played host to the country's second Oceania International Film Festival. USP's ICT Center paved way for a wide range of films, not only across the Pacific region, but from different parts of the globe. The film festival was an outlet for these filmmakers not only to showcase their talent, but a chance for movie enthusiasts to get a glimpse of the different types of films that exist. It has become a beacon of hope for filmmakers here in the region. Join us over the next half an hour to witness Pacific filmmaking at its best.
Moana, The Rising of the Sea, is about climate change and its impact on Pacific Islanders, particularly those living on low-lying islands. The focus is not on the sciences or the politics, but rather on feelings and how it feels to lose your homeland, to be forced to relocate because of the sea level rise.
The story of the founder of the Rasta movement. So a lot of people know about Bob Marley, listen to reggae, but they don't know where all this comes from. And so I myself didn't know, so I started looking for it and I realized nobody had never written this story. So I spent about 20 years doing the research. And then when the book came out, a young man came and said, I want to make a movie out of it.
The film is the squad of the archipelago. It's a very special police squad in French Polynesia who intervene only in the very remote islands of the atolls of the Tuamotu Islands. And it's a very special way of enforcing the law of the Republic because there are so special, very small communities.
Yeah, my film is called In the Shadow of the Sun. It follows two albino men as they follow their dreams in the face of severe prejudice and brutal murder over a 6-year period in Tanzania. I first became aware of this subject in 2004. I was making a film for the British Council in Senegal about a completely different subject, and while filming on the street, a mother approached me with her 6-month-old albino child, held it out to me and said, take it back to where it comes from, assuming because I was white-skinned that the baby belonged to me in some way.
When I came here 9 days before the show opened, that was the first time I saw a rehearsal of what the group had been working on, and I realized that we would not be ready, by the time the show was supposed to open. So we had to do some serious thinking and say to ourselves, okay, we know we won't be ready given the story that we were working on. Now we have to think about what is ready and how can we tell a story based on what is ready.
Nobody knows their story, nobody knows where they come from, and that they are linked to the main black redemption movement, and that they are linked to the post-colonial redemption of the colonized people. So nobody really wanted to deal with us, and there was no money for us, so we thought, what do we do? And then it's somebody from Mauritius Island who decided to give us a start, a little money, and so we started filming. And then to finish the film, my producer sold his flat, and it was very hard. Really, the establishment considers Rastas as crazy people, drug dealers, and in fact, it's a very beautiful and courageous story.
In 1958, Howell neglected to register the property in his name. and the government sold the land.
The main challenge is money, as you can understand, because making a movie, a 1-hour documentary, it takes 4, 5, 6 months more sometimes. So you have to eat during this time, so you have to find money to make the movie, to pay the crew, so it's a main problem.
At the time though, I had no idea that over the next 5 years 74 people with albinism were going to be murdered and 34 people were going to be left mutilated. Basically witch doctors began to spread the belief that albino body parts can make you rich and bring you good fortune and wealth. And yes, it was at times a dangerous film to make, but mainly for the characters in the film. They were getting death threats every day. One of my lead characters is an albino rights activist who, rather than hiding away when the murders begin, he travels out into the communities and confronts the communities where the murders have taken place and tries to educate them about his condition, that he isn't a curse, that there's science behind him having white skin. So yeah, it was a long journey and I felt like giving up a lot.
Of course, I also lost some of my witnesses because, as you can imagine, this story happened in the 30s, 40s, and the last witnesses are dying one by one. So I lost half of my witnesses while we were trying to finance the movie. So this is why we decided to go, even if we didn't have enough money to finish the shooting, just to make sure that at least we keep something of those old people who have a fantastic story to tell, because now you have millions of people all over the world listening to Bob Marley, and they're interested to know where all that comes from.
We've established a charity. We've raised nearly $1 million from screening the film around the world. That's all for the charity. So we're doing some amazing things. We have a mobile clinic that goes around Tanzania, helping people with skin cancer, because that's one of their biggest killers, because they have no melanin in their skin that protects them from the sun.
The regret I have is that the audience we had was mostly learned people, students, researchers, or people who just want to be informed about everything. And we didn't reach really the Rasta community. I don't know if they don't feel comfortable coming to the university, or they feel that once again the establishment would give a bad image of their movement. I don't know what happened, but I hope one day I'll get a chance to come and speak to the people related to.
At the stroke of midnight come impressive ceremonies led by the Prime Minister as the flag of the new nation is proudly raised on high.
Just fantastic to bring my film to a Fijian audience. What we've found where we've taken the film, although it is specifically about albinos in Tanzania, it seems the message resonates with everyone. When I played the film in New Caledonia, I had grown Kanak men coming up to me crying afterwards, saying that the lead character in the film had given them strength for their fight for independence against France. This is a film about being different. It is as human beings, wherever we're from, we put people into boxes. So I think what I found from the Fijian audience is that people have come up to me and they've related to the film in some way, if they've been stigmatized or marginalized in their life in some way.
The film was played in Mexico, in Canada, in all kind of places, but the places where people most relate to it are the places where people have this identity problem. They have been colonized, they had a different culture which tried to convince them that their culture was no good. And so if you come to those countries, right away you find people who relate to it very strongly.
It's more relevant than ever, and it attracts people of all walks of life.
My film got picked up because it played at a film festival in New Caledonia. I had my world premiere in Holland at the world's biggest documentary festival, and it did very well. Therefore, then people start seeing your film, and festivals from all over the world ask for your film. So I've just travelled to over 50 festivals in the last year and a half, and this is towards the end of my run. So really, I just want my film to get to the widest possible audience.
I mean, the truth is I never went to film school. You know, I just taught myself basically through, you know, there's no better way to learn anything than by actually doing. But I've been, I was raised by my father particularly on the myths and legends of Rotuma when I was a young boy, the youngest of 11 kids, and he would tell us the stories, oral tales of Rotuma. So I grew up nurtured on these stories, and I would identify with the hero and travel on the journey, overcoming obstacles and finally achieving the goal.
It begins in 1973. I was still a student in the business school in Paris, and I met two other students in this school who were like me, who loved cinema, and we created our production company at this time when we still were students. And since then, I'm producing and directing movies.
First got into the film industry 12 years ago. I did a film degree, firstly. And then for a long time I was working as a cameraman in the industry in the UK, primarily for the BBC and other TV channels. So I was shooting everything from documentaries to fiction, music videos, commercials. But I knew I always really wanted to tell my own stories and make my own documentaries, really. I was really interested in sort of human interest, real life stories.
The lowest budget is zero. I made the film alone with my gear and don't pay myself and so. And the highest budget in Tahiti, it was about 200,000 euros.
We want the rest of the world, particularly the United States and China and Japan, India, to know that their way of life is impacting, the island countries of the Pacific. Well, I'm working on a feature film set in the Marshall Islands. Yeah, we hope to go into production next year. It's a story based on a novel, and it's about the impact of nuclear testing and now missile testing on the Marshallese people, and how they have been forced to relocate from their islands as a result of the islands being irradiated by the tests. And now the missile testing on Kwajalein Atoll and the fallout from that in terms of broken relationships, people being forced to move. And I'm talking here about Marshallese people who were forced to leave their lush, beautiful islands and to go to Ibai, an island that's not even a mile long, but has 14,000 people living on it.
I'm not sure. I would like to see different problems, different subjects. I would like to see. Maybe I was thinking I should come to the Pacific because I have so much to learn from such a different culture.
I'm looking for a subject here in Fiji because I would like to shoot something here. But there's so many things that I still don't have choose my subject. But I would like very much to shoot here in Fiji and around the Pacific because it's such a rich country.
As a film fund for people from Fiji, young people who are interested to go into filmmaking, and they could submit their scripts. You could have a panel, right, to judge the scripts, and the government could help that way by providing financial resources for young people, particularly to tell their stories in film. And the thing is, film is such a powerful medium.
From vomiting now drugs, I regret.
You knew about this?
No, Dad. I only know that she was vomiting. I didn't know she was taking drugs.
I think it's important on many levels. One, and the one that I've mentioned many times, is that we're trying to introduce a culture of seeing films. So this film festival for me is introducing various genres of film to the public so that they can appreciate the wide range of films that are made internationally.
The places where you have a number of Pacific Islanders telling stories in film are New Zealand, amongst the Maori particularly. Certainly there's been a lot of interesting films from there. Hawaii is another place where because we now have a film school at the University of Hawaii, so young people are learning how to tell stories in films. I think if we don't tell our stories, then Hollywood will tell it for us.
We'd love to hear from you. We hope that next year we're going to get more filmmakers who will come. We want to try and have maybe a series of masterclass. Hopefully our training will happen.
The best advice I could give to anyone who's interested in this business is that the most important thing is the story. It's not the technology, but the story. You need to know how to tell a story that will move people. It needs to focus on a significant human experience.
We don't make this work to get rich, to be rich. Some get rich, but it's very, very, very few. It's making movies a passion. So if you consider it just like a job, just don't do it. But if you are really willing to make movies, if it's part of your life, then go for it. And the most important thing is to have a real subject, a real history. Then after that, everything comes. You can be helped by professionals and so. But you must have a subject, a strong subject in which you believe and a story to tell.
You know, there are a lot of challenges in making films. I'd probably also advise, if you're completely new to it, it's good to find someone with experience to work under for a bit, to get a lot of knowledge from. I certainly think working as a cameraman for a long time, helped me in that respect. Just learning from others around you, volunteering whenever you can for shoots, getting in there with the TV channels as early as you can.
And that's Close Up for this week. The film industry has so much potential and can be used as the way to safeguard and identify our culture for who we are and where we come from. I hope you enjoyed the show this evening. For any comments or questions, please feel free to email us at closeup@fijitv.com.fj. Until next week, good evening.